Today's conversation is going to be about food patrols, and the title is "Food Patrol Approach for High Police Call Areas." I'm going to be discussing a topic that I think a lot of officers and a lot of police departments in the United States today are asking: how do we approach community policing practices? How do we engage the community? How do we effectively get out there and start talking to the communities, especially minority communities? And how do you do it effectively so that you can actually yield results, not just get out there and pretend that you're actually patrolling? So today the food patrols are a big thing, and I figured I would put something a short video and explain how this works. So that is the disclosure, obviously, important. In this video, we're going to talk about why food patrols. We're going to define your area of concentration. Part 3, we're going to talk about the inventory, know your known criminals and drug dealers. Number 4, we're going to talk about segmenting your time for patrols in 2 programs. One of them, you're going to have to break down your food patrols in two sections. One of them is going to be prevention contacts, crime prevention contacts, and the second one is going to be suppression contacts. I think we put a lot more emphasis in suppression, gang suppression or criminal activity suppression, that we completely forget about the crime prevention support, and that's where your community policing skills and your food patrols basically engage the community and bring the collaboration from the community to help you out. And number 5, we're going to be talking about build your network of contacts. And number 6, part 6 of this program today, it's going to talk about follow up, repeat the activity, and become unpredictable. I think one of the biggest challenges you're going to have today with law enforcement is any activity that you do as far as policing is concerned. If you get out there, get your police car, and go to the same coffee shop at the same time every single day. You go have lunch in the same spot every single day. You do things repeatedly that are very much predictable. Well, you're not going to have a lot of success in really becoming unpredictable, because basically criminals know when you're going to be coming in, when you're going to be driving through, when you're going to be doing food patrols. If this is the conversation we're going to be talking about today. So become unpredictable, I think, is the biggest thing. So why food patrols? Part number 1. An expedition to keep, what is it? Let's just give you a definition. An expedition to keep watch over an area by regular walking around it, especially as conducted by soldiers or police. In your case, it's going to obviously be the policing section. So your key point basically is watch over an area by regularly walking. Are food patrols effective? That's a question you want to ask. And here are some things to consider. They are effective when you have a measurable objective and purpose for doing your food patrols. Second point to consider, food patrols, when done incorrectly, feel no real purpose, no real objective. Many times the food patrols are so predictable, the bad people know when cops come in. So therefore, there's really no real purpose for food patrols if you're not going to be implementing an element of surprise. There cannot be one approach to treat the good people and the bad people in the target area, and this is the most important point. I think that if we're implementing a suppression tactic or policing tactic to an area, saturating the area with a lot of policing activity, but then at the same time sweeping with the same techniques the good people, you're going to have some real problems in trying to get people to tell you what's going on. So you want to keep that in mind, and you want to separate those two. Number 2, we go to point number 2, section number 2, defining your area of concentration. And here are some 2 thoughts for consideration. Look at the calls for service for the last 12 months. Evaluate all the calls for crime prevention purposes, part 1 and part 2, all of them. Huge point. Look at CATS or whatever program you have. Look at all the calls for service that are coming in. As I stated before, if you're working for Amazon, you know what people are surfing for. You can anticipate what's going on. In an area where you have any issues with a lot of gang activity or drug activity, it's obviously seriously important to have an idea of what's coming in the last 12 months. Do 12 months. Have an idea of what's coming in. Do some graphs, measure the situation. Crime prevention calls are suspicious calls, suspicious person, suspicious whatever other calls you may have. People racing their cars, domestic troubles, loud noise, loud complaints, suspicious activities of all kinds. Anything that you think is crime prevention that could prevent something else from happening, where the presence of the police is summoned by someone who's in the community. Keep that in mind. If the call is originated by someone in the community, if somebody's speeding, that's a crime prevention call. If somebody's playing music loud and a neighbor calls in, that is a crime prevention call. Number two, identify the people who call the police on a regular basis. Huge objective to do at the beginning of your program. Have an idea who you're dealing with and make friends with those people. That is exactly what I did when I started my this type of program in Bensonville. Actually, I reached out to all those people, made them my friends, got them into the Neighborhood Watch program, and it has been absolutely amazing for the last 6 years. They are the biggest support that we have. And for that, I can say that we have 600 families, basically, in a town that has 20,000 people. So that gives you an idea. Identify the most common goals for service, including the reports for disorderly conduct, reports for, including any alcohol-related assault, battery cases, and domestic-related situations. Look at those particular problems, because those are disorderly conduct related situations. It gives you a really good idea of what you need to get into. Measure the cases related to drugs as well. Inventory the known criminals. This is chapter number 3 or section 3. Known criminals and drug dealers. Focus on the gangs too. And here's what I've divided in 3 things. Priority number 1 are gang members. Priority number 2, drug dealers. And priority number 3 are disorderly conduct and other criminal activity in their area. Gang members and drug dealers are basically your number 1 goal if you're going to be doing any suppression going on. Here are some thoughts for consideration, and this will probably give you a pretty good idea. Number 1, make sure you are updating your gang contact files along with making leads contra entries. That way everything's up to date. So you can hear some thundering going on right now. Areas are dominated by gangs. Always have their visible presence. This makes your contact much more easier when possible. Obviously, do knock and talks, but be careful nowadays with everything going on. You want to make sure you have backup. Utilize Terry stops. Use policy. Keep in mind what policy you have in your department. But if you have a good policy where you can do Terry stops, with known criminals, go ahead and use that. Officer safety is always first, obviously. Check for warrants, etc. Always collect intelligence. Every opportunity, every contact you have with known criminals, always try to elicit some information. Keep in mind, if you're in a high crime area, they are watching when you're talking to a known criminal. So somebody else is watching, keeping an eye on that kind of interaction. Priority number 3, disorderly conduct and other criminal activity. Here are some thoughts for consideration, and I'll go real quick on this. Feel free to use this as much as you want, go back to it, and obviously stop the video if necessary. Make your notes. Number 1, people that are regularly getting into trouble in their area because they drink or other reasons can be a good source of intelligence. Some of those guys are very, easy to talk to. You can engage them into a conversation, especially if they're not going to be landed in jail for drinking in public or urinating in public or getting into any other illicit activity or criminal activity. Number 2, they also prefer that you don't talk to them when in public, as they may be seen by the real criminals as snitch. This is a really good leverage that you can use, but don't push it too much. because this can actually land that person into a lot of trouble with the criminals. So kind of be conscious of that. Number 3, try to reinforce positive traits for a person trying to sober up, rehab, etc., etc. When you're talking to them, don't be a tough guy or girl. Kind of engage them. If you hear, if you're listening to them, obviously listen to what's going on in their lives and try to be there and be present, and obviously encourage them to be good citizens there. Try to get intelligence on what's going on, and when possible, this is number 4. Always try to get information and intelligence. Do not push them as you will a gang member. Soft approach always works best. This type, category 3, which is the troublemakers because of bad habits or whatever the situation is, or be easy with them. They can be good eyes and ears for you. Section number 4, segment your times for food patrols in 2 programs, and this is I think it was at the beginning, when I was talking about different things we're going to talk about. Crime prevention contacts and suppression contacts. Crime prevention contacts, here are some thoughts that I would like to kind of highlight for you. And let me go. All right, so crime prevention contacts. So here is where I'm going to offer you some thoughts to consider for consideration. Crime prevention efforts cannot be done by the same officers who are doing suppression. Huge difference. Never mix them up. If you're going to be doing one, don't do the other, because if you're going to be creating support from the community, you want to do it positively, and the times can't be the same times, because you're still a cop, you're in a uniform, and the criminals and the good people don't distinguish the difference. So kind of be conscious of that. The best approaches for an officer who uses soft approaches: crime prevention, inclusion, and outreach. Always know that. Crime prevention, inclusion, and outreach. 3 things that you have to do on a daily basis to do crime prevention. Build a neighborhood watch list when people in the area. My recommendation, if you're going to be doing crime prevention, do it during the time when you have more contact with families, during the morning, on weekends, obviously during the day, before things get crazy in the evening or at night. Build community networks. Always be building your community networks. And number 5, always be available. You cannot do any crime prevention network if you're not available. Discovering your needs for the community when you connect them. So somebody says, we're looking for this particular need in the community. Always try to figure out a way to bring them in contact with the person that can help them out. It looks like a small gesture from you, but in reality makes a huge difference in their lives. Suppression contacts, and here are some thoughts for consideration. I think that will help you out. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here, suppression contacts. All right, suppression in the area, unlike crime prevention contacts, require a show of force and readiness to enforce the law. I think it's a big difference. Soft approach, making friends, making relationships with the community, between the police and the community, creating networks, human networks there, that's great. Suppression is a little bit more like you come in, you start kind of enforcing the law, so to speak. Entering the area should always be in a stealth manner. Obviously, if you're going to come in and you're predictable, that's not going to work. So always be unpredictable. Number 3, head to the known criminals first when you approach the area. Always know where you're going to come in, but also know who you're going to be talking to right away. Go to the areas at all times in the day, but use the high call times, weekend and evenings and nights to actually make contact. Officer safety first when doing a foot patrol at night. Obviously, you want to be in a situation where you're going to make it happen, not be part of the news. And number 5, I'm sorry. It's just this thing, build your network of contacts. Tools for consideration, build your network of contacts, and here's some food for thoughts or some considerations that you may want to use. Always recruit informants and sources. Number one, always recruit informants and sources. Always be ready to recruit, especially if you're doing when you're doing building your networks. Always ready to recruit people. Number two, always find opportunities for the crime prevention network. Always find. Whether you're doing suppression or the other one, when you're talking to people, you're engaging them, know that can be a contact that can go to the crime prevention unit that's going to be helping you build your networks. Number three, become completely unpredictable for everyone in the target areas. Number four, I think we talked about that already. Number four, meet informants and sources outside the area for tips. I think we underestimate the fear that some of the minorities may have, or even some of your contacts in any community that you're dealing with drugs or any of those problems. You got to make sure that you're meeting people so that their safety is number one, especially if they're going to provide you some high quality information. Number five, measure activity weekly, monthly, every 6 months, and every year. Know what kind of return on investment you're getting from the community you're dealing with. For instance, in my case, in Bensenville, I basically measure every week calls of service. I look at every call that came in. I segment them with the crime prevention calls from what areas they're coming in, and I do an analysis every single week to know exactly where we stand. And I can find trigger points that basically say, hey, work on this additional function in order to lessen the problems. For instance, let's say one apartment complex, I'm having a lot of calls for noise, et cetera, on the weekends. I can hit the area and talk to people in the community and tell them basically the rules of phone call, the noise and everything else, how soon they need to shut down their parties, et cetera. 6, and this is the last section, obviously, in our program today. Follow up and repeat the activity and become unpredictable. Follow up, repeat the activity, and become unpredictable. Here are some thoughts I'd like to recommend. Take advantage of the weather and seasons. Foot patrols are best when it's nice outside. Change some of the approaches when weather changes. Obviously, when it's cold and it's freezing and there's snow and everything else, the known criminals, you want to do knock and talk. You want to find ways to network with them and talk to them. You're not going to see them doing barbecues or playing outside with their kids. They're going to be hibernating pretty much. Continue number 3. Continue to perform foot patrols during the cold weather. Obviously, that's key. Why not? I always do foot patrols even when it's really cold. Always monitor your activity with your known criminals in other places. Key point to do is always keep an eye on what's going on with your criminals outside your jurisdiction. Number 5, suppression and crime prevention activities are never to be done by the same people. Remember the carrot and stick approach. I think Chief Kazman in Bensenville has a really good idea there. Good program there. He says that one of us is the carrot and the other one is the stick. I am usually the carrot because I'm always bringing people to kind of work with us and collaborate with us, where the more tactical unit with directed patrol, they get out there and do things, do suppression, investigations, et cetera, et cetera. So keep in mind your officer safety is number 1. Always know where you are. If you're doing foot patrols, know exactly where you are. Announce it and let people know where you stand. Situation becomes to get kind of bad. Get on your radio and let people know what's going on. This is the end. Today obviously was a great topic. Foot patrols are huge. If you want to increase cooperation from the community, build your human networks, this is the way to do it. If you have questions, contact Langhao Warter. He's the President of Criminal Justice, and here's information. For additional questions or concerns over a topic that you may want to as you want us to discuss. Obviously, this is our website, www.contingentsecurity.com. And again, be safe, engage the community. You'll see the results immediately, almost nearly immediately, when people start coming to you for help, and you'll see the results. All right? Until next time, take care.